Alright, so as speculated, this is... I'm grinding for souls so that we can get some weapons going. While I do that, I'm going to just sort of ramble on about some lore stuff. A lot of this is speculative, because it's Dark Souls, but do our best. Give you an idea where we're sitting. What we want is Twinkling Titanite. So, we're going to make a divine weapon, and we're going to make a... We're going to upgrade our Black Knight Greatsword. Now, Black Knight Greatsword requires Twinkling Titanite. We have almost none. We need 10. Divine weapons need Green Titanite, and luckily we got just a shit ton from all those slugs we killed. So, no big deal there. Now, Twinkling Titanite we can find in the world, but we can also buy it from that giant blacksmith, so that's what we're going to do. It costs 8,000 a piece, I believe, so we're shooting for about 80,000 souls. I forgot our name was Fjorg. Oh, anyway, 80,000 or so souls. Other things that happened, so that we can wield the Black Knight Greatsword. Because it's technically a quality weapon. We needed 18 dexterity, so ate a bunch of souls, got us to 18 dex. You know, unfortunately, we're gonna level up much slower now, but I guess we can wield that sword, which is dope. To give you an idea what that looks like, though. So this is the Great Club. We've got 270. It's scaled up at 175. The Black Knight Greatsword. Where you at? I passed it, didn't I? For sure. There it is. 220. 136. 220, 136 compared to... Are they right next to each other? They fucking were. And so that's unmodified. So this has been upgraded to plus 10. Black Knight Greatsword is pretty incredible. Because it's the kind of weapon that it is, we're only going to be able to take it to plus 5. But each of those is pretty gnarly, so we'll compare these weapons once I've upgraded them. This is my farming run right now. We're going to farm these dudes. Because there's 6 of them, 3 here, 3 there. And they're worth 1,500 a pop. Just kind of nice. And then the basic strategy is we're going to come here, pull one. You have to get pretty close before they come and bother you. Cool. You do want to take him a good... Son of a bitch. A good distance away, or you will proc that other guy. Ah! Anyway, so I think what I was going to talk about here is a bit of stuff around some Undead Curse stuff and some Way of White stuff. So we know on some level that the Way of White is a church, right? It seems to be kind of the main church. Definitely tied to the gods, particularly Gwyn and his family. We don't see a lot about worship of, like, the Witch of Izalith, Greyflord, Nito, or those guys. Definitely not the furtive pygmy. Gwen seems to be the main bit. We see a little bit of Isola's stuff with the pyromancers. But they're kind of treated like an aberration. And I think there's reasons for that, but anyway, so the Way of White Church, how to be a good person, how to win friends and influence people. And we know that, you know, some characters who've been around for a while, I'm gonna keep missing that shield, were involved in it. So, you know, we've even got characters like Havel, who's a bishop in this faith, and Havel's been around since Ancient Dragons were a thing. We don't know how long ago that was, but presumably quite a long time. They're, they have some concerns, let's say, about this undead curse. So, for most of time, god damn it, there was no undead curse, right? There were gods doing god things, fighting dragons and demons, and humans living underneath them in cities like this, going about their stuff. But the undead curse comes up kind of late in the game. So, you know, the souls are found by the lords. Oh, that double swing. Souls are found by lords, the Age of Fire is established with the death of the dragons, and then, you know, stuff kind of just goes on from there. And the Way of White seems to be established as a way of sort of teaching people how to be, let's say. Now, after the dragons have been defeated, and after demons have arrived, and after all of these ancient things have begun appearing, all these epic battles that we sort of known about, this curse starts showing up. And it only affects humans. It only affects some of them, those marked with the dark sign. It's ambiguous why. It starts off in one location, but begins to spread, it appears. Now, originally, or the way, we'll start this way. The way the church, let's say, deals with that, they note it as, it's a problem, right? Good people don't get branded as the undead. It's a sign of evil. But, and that's probably where these undead hunts come on, so... Yeah. So you know that bit about Allfather Lloyd and hunting the undead. That seems to be the original plan. Now, it's not a super effective plan. Obviously, the undead come back. But it's the starting point, or somewhere near it. Now, eventually, a new plan is devised, which is we send them to the Undead Asylum, which is where we end up. Which, again, isn't a solution. Just kind of gets them out of the way. Really thought you were going to go down there. And I believe, I would argue, timeline-wise, that comes up right about the same time an important member of the church becomes undead. Because at that point, that calls into question the validity of the church itself. And so you have to come up with a new plan, a new explanation. So simply hunting the undead isn't sufficient. You have to explain something that allows the church to maintain its authority on right and goodness, while also dealing with this burdening undead curse. And so part of that is sending them off to the undead asylum, but around the same time you're going to have this explanation, let's say, about the prophecy of the undead. So this probably goes on for a long period of time. Like, this isn't a year or so. This is fairly long, and there's a lot of background stuff I don't want to get into now because it'll reveal some story beats. But let's say there are important folk who are trying to solve some big problems, and they're looking to buy time. And part of that is this prophecy of the undead. And this thing that we're sent on, you spread this story about, hey, if you are undead, it's actually because you're chosen. And you're chosen for a great destiny. And to fulfill this destiny and prove that you're the chosen undead. Not all undead are chosen, right? It's right undead. Maybe it's you. You're sent on this quest to go find your purpose. Now we know, having played this far, kind of what's entailed in that. But generally speaking, we are not the only undead who have been involved in this, not by a long shot. Lots of undead are on this sort of quest. And so you send them off on this thing that we're up to save everything, presumably. And part of that is sending them on this zone to go ring these bells and whatnot. You could make the argument that whatever else is going on, at least it keeps them busy. You know, if the undead are off fighting and dying in droves, trying to reach on Orlando and whatnot, they're not spreading through cities thinking about other stuff. But there's more to it than that, obviously. And that'll come up later. I think that's about as far as I'll go with talking about that, because I don't want to reveal too much about what's going on. But the other part is we're trying to find solutions to the ends of the Age of Fire. Now, where the undead curse comes from, that is something that we know by the end of all 3 games, but not necessarily at the end of this game. Come on, buddy. But another interesting thing, because we're on this undead quest, and the guy who let us out, remember who threw the key in? He's the one who gave us the bit about the quest. He's from Astora. He also believed in this, but not everybody is on about that. You know, for example, we've got our crestfallen friend. He doesn't believe in any of this. He's given up on life generally, and is just sort of watching. He kind of just found an interesting place to sit and just watching things go by, because we're at a crossroads of interesting people. He mentions in one of his dialogue, that he's looking at these heroes from legend pass by on epic quests. Oh, God. Yeah, that's about right. Oh, hey! Wing! Sorry. So he's just watching these people pass by, which you can imagine is reasonable. A lot of these people we're running into, they are kind of like great heroic characters. You hit a little bit, if you remember that guy we found up top of Sen's Fortress, you know, he mentions all these people who showed up. These are heroes from legends. One was a Night King. He ruled a kingdom, was a great warrior. He led men into battle and took up this quest to end the apocalypse, let's say, and the undead curse. So he's traveled great distances, and he fought through everything that we fought through, more or less. Great monsters, poisonous zones, like, he made it all the way to Sen's Fortress. He rung the bells. We're not the only ones who did it. And, but couldn't make it through there. Black Iron Tarkus made it through, apparently, though he seemed to die here in Orlando. And then Big Hat Logan is the greatest sorcerer of his age. So the way I kind of always imagine it, you know, it's sort of like if you played Dungeons and Dragons, right? You know, you're building this character with this epic backstory, going on these incredible adventures, right? Every one of these people is fucking pillar. Every one of these people that you're running into is a very high level D&D character. They've been through incredible hardships. They've got incredible backstories, huge motivations. They've overcome, they've lost, they've failed, they've succeeded. And this guy, you know, our crestfallen guy, let's say, he's just sort of watching him because he's died, been reborn, died, been reborn. He's sort of come up with a nihilistic take on this. He doesn't see it going anywhere. And it's hard to kind of blame him if you get down to it, because how many undead have passed through there that he's watched? Each of them a great hero. Each of them believing that they'll be the one to do it. And yet, no one has succeeded, despite all their strength and intelligence and magical power, despite all of the times they're willing to die, be reborn. We've got our cleric woman. She's, I guess, well, we don't know a whole lot about her backstory yet, but she's on some sort of epic quest of redemption with her powerful knight-errant clerics, sworn to protect her. You've got Big Hat Logan, maybe the most brilliant mind of his age, knows more about sorceries than anybody has ever, at least anybody human. Great kings and knights, and all of them are on this thing, just dying, and I guess it plays into our own sort of sense. We love the story of people who tried and faced great hardships, and even though it was nearly impossible and they almost failed and they lost a lot along the way, in the end their perseverance and their cleverness and their strength saw them through to the end. We kind of want to think that that's how the world works, right? And that's the sort of quest that you're sent on. Oof. But you can get where he's coming from. Let's say, you know, how many great heroes do you need to see fail? How many strong souls do you need to see succumb to hollowing before you kind of give up? Now, obviously, his isn't the only perspective. Most people follow in a more optimistic light of one sort or another. You know, our boy Siggy, wonderful adventurer, mad confidence, is falling asleep in frickin' Blight Town. Oh. You know, Big Hat Logan thinks that he's going to do it through brilliance and sorcery. Our pyromancer guy, I don't know about where he falls on the hero thing, but we'll say to the extent of it. You know, he's following this path of instinct and nature. Think of him kind of like a druid, I guess. Oof. But, you know, amidst that, not everybody's on this quest, so, like, the guy who killed the Firekeeper, Lorethrough, you know, he wasn't trying to follow this thing. He'd found a different path, right? He'd become fallen in love with the goddess of love, basically. Sort of an Aphrodite character. He's collecting humanity as part of that, and that's his main goal, the thing that's driving him, for better or for worse. There's a character named Patches we're gonna meet. He's got his own thing. There's other characters throughout about their own business, but everybody's sort of on some sort of quest, and you could say that maybe one of the interesting questions that's being posed through here is, what's the point of being undead? Get a little philosophical, but think of it this way, you know, as a human you're mortal. You've got so much time, and then you're gonna die, and whatever else that does, it does add a bit of a purpose to your existence. Because you've only got so long to get stuff done, it sort of adds a level of drive to anything that you do. But if you're immortal, the idea of purpose becomes a bit more pressing. Particularly when you think that, you know, even your own death, god damn it, on that backswing, isn't going to stop you. On some level, any amount of persistence will get you through something if you can just die and be reborn. So, you know, if you want to go defeat this guy, you can approach him as many times as you want or need. You don't have to get it right the first time. But when you can do that, you know, how ought one spend one's time to give their life meaning? So that's one of the things I think the game is really getting. And that's kind of what everybody's on about. That's why the idea of a prophecy of the undead holds so much sway for people. And why even characters who I think aren't necessarily interested in the prophecy of the undead. I don't think Big Hat Logan is, and we'll get a bit more into that. But, you know, he is kind of interested in knowledge. He's a great scholar. His whole life has been based around learning, understanding the world, mastering it through his intellect. So that drives him onward. Sigurd seems to love adventure. Patches loves chaos. Lorethrough loved his goddess and whatever she represented to him. And this idea of purpose is big. It's the thing that this prophecy is grabbing onto. It's the thing that's driving everybody forward. And I would make the argument that that the hollowing thing that everybody's afraid of, this becoming a husk, doesn't happen because you die too much. That's a thing that's sort of postulated, let's say, within the game. That it's this dying and resurrecting over and over again that forces you to go hollow. But I'm not so sure that it is. You know, I think that there's more indication that it's sort of losing your fire for existence at a very deep level. It's a kind of like ultimate nihilism represented through magic. What appears to be magic, at least. Oh no! Because some people seem to go hollow fairly quickly, and others will go on for ages, and that'll become more apparent as time goes on. And I think one of the main things it is sort of the fire in you, right? Let's say, maybe that's a good way of putting it. You know, this game ruminates on souls. Obviously, it's in the title. It's our main currency. Souls started the world. Souls fuel everything in this game. I think I talked a little bit in the last go-through about, like, whether it's through the natural, instinctive, passionate side of, like, a pyromancer, the faith and confidence of a miracle user, or the understanding of a sorcerer. You know, these are all kind of different aspects of the soul and awareness and free will. So maybe the thing that's actually being harnessed is just that. Something like your innate drive. And the hollowing, the wearing away of that soul is the loss of that drive from just the relentless existence without end. And I think I think my theory holds up thematically, and that'll become more relevant, you know, definitely by Dark Souls 3. Anyway, so we were talking about the Way of White. God, this is bird walking. So with the Way of White, they sort of establish when it's apparent that this undead thing isn't getting better, and those who are seeking solutions to the things they're seeking solutions to are looking for more time. Their tactics aren't working. We send this stuff on, and one of the aspects of that is the Firekeeper. So we've got... Dang it. We return to these bonfires, right? And I think I mentioned in the game, but if not, I'll do it here. The bonfires aren't burning wood. They're burning the bones of undead. And for these fires to work, they have to be linked to a Firekeeper. You know, so we've seen the one who was below Firelink Shrine, obviously. But the woman who's up here is also a Firekeeper, though of a different kind of sword. And if you remember in their souls, the Firekeeper souls, it mentions that they're these repositories of humanity. And that's key. It's key that you need a Firekeeper there, and it's key that they need to accumulate humanity to keep this thing going. Because what's being burned there on some level is humanity. That's what's being kindled. It's souls. Ooh. God dang it, James. And so you know, as part of this, this Way of White thing that's going on to solve this problem, part of it is sending the undead on a quest, but the other part of it is the Firekeepers themselves. That's a key part of the story. And whether or not they're bound, per se, is left ambiguous. Some level of binding, maybe, is implied. This woman seems free, but the firekeeper below is locked in a cage underground. And has been there for some time, and has been maimed and can't speak. All these sorts of things. And so, if nothing else, great sacrifice has been required on the part of her to maintain this fire. And you have to wonder, what, it's also mentioned that the accumulation of humanity isn't particularly comfortable. This isn't a thing that they enjoy. So, one of two things is happening. One of two things, or a combination of both. Some level of compulsion. Literally just, say, taking a person and making them a firekeeper against their will. Binding them, maiming them, and forcing this job/transformation on them. Or they're choosing it, and you have to imagine that the sort of... If you were going to do that, make that kind of sacrifice, you would have to genuinely believe that it was worth it. There could be no doubt in your mind if you were going to spend eternity, or the equivalent, in pain, alone, suffering the weight of all of this humanity. And maybe a grand religious story about how it's a necessary part of saving the world from ruin. Allowing these undead to... There we go. Allowing these undead to go on this great quest so that the chosen undead could save everyone. That might be sufficient to keep you going. We do love the idea that, heroes saving the world through great sacrifice, as we talked about. It's kind of one of the reasons I'm bummed I couldn't bring the firekeeper back, because you get a bit of information from her after she can talk. Come on, buddy. That'll do. Nice. And the role of the firekeeper, or the life of the firekeeper? Maybe that's a better one. Changes a little bit as the games go on. The implications of that I'm not entirely sure. But basically, I guess my argument or my thought is that a lot of this stuff that we're going on, and a lot of the things that are focusing energy and attention in the directions that we're seeing is directly tied to the faith established by, likely, but at least aligned with the monarchy and system of Lord Gwyn's family, and those things associated with it, presumably seed the Scaleless and whatnot. Now at this point we're being sent off to gather the souls of great individuals, and no. I didn't really bring this up at the time. I guess I'm kind of hoping that people just pick up on it, but you're just sort of sent off and then told, hey, go kill all of these heroes and gods and individuals of great power and renown, because they're the only ones with souls capable of doing this, and don't worry about it too much. They're all, evil or corrupt or, there's no great loss to this. And by doing so, you can yourself, not only are you going to save the world, but you'll take the place of Gwyn in some way, right? You'll be his successor. And that sounds really good, but it comes along real fast. You know, hey, go ring these bells. Hey, here's a goddess. Alright, great, here's the Lord Vessel. Go get the souls of the other great gods and kings of the old and all of this stuff. And bring it back. And don't think too much about why you're doing it. Just the prophecy. Nice. There's a lot I want to say, but I can't without getting into more speculative lore zones. There we go. And stuff that hasn't been talked about. We're really going to get into, like, the game. I don't want to say the game proper. It's not like we haven't been playing the game proper, but... the way the initial bit is set up, it sort of feels like getting to On Orlando would be the end, or towards the end of the game. And in fact, it's much more like a middle or maybe 2/3 point. And a lot of our greatest trials and most interesting lore bits are going to come next. I haven't killed this guy, right? Yeah. I think if there's anything else we can sort of talk about. I'll try to make sure I can complete as many storylines as possible. Because it is interesting. Cycles and souls of purpose are interesting topics of speculation generally, and I think this game is a really good meditation on those. Pretty on Orlando. This game does look great remastered, I'm not gonna lie. I suppose that's about as much as I had to say about the Way of White. And a bit about maybe the natures of souls. I'd keep in mind throughout this game that humanity and souls are treated as separate resources in this game. But they can also function in similar manners. And don't forget the furtive pygmy. Never forget the furtive pygmy. Yeah, I'm gonna kill this guy. We'll end this. I'm not gonna make you watch me get these last 30,000 souls to buy all the Twinkling Titanite. I think next go through, we're gonna end up going. I'm gonna go explore those graves. Ah! I'm 90% sure that's where we're supposed to go. If so, that's an exciting place. We get some cool stuff down there, if I remember right. We get to see a bit more about some of the old world stuff, and we get to meet Pinwheel, who is a very tragic character, but that's all a problem for future us. Next lore through, I don't know. We'll talk about, maybe we'll talk about Izalith, I don't know. I don't know next time I'm going to feel motivated to do one of these. Hope you enjoyed it. Till then, hope you're enjoying the rest of the playthrough.